be for this reason that music plays a key role in delivering religious messages beyond a language barrier. This paper concerns Sampaka, a new kind of Buddhist vocal music, which both Korean and the international members of Hammam Sonam play as a form of practice. In what follows, I will first define Sampaka, its emergence, composition, processes, and characteristics. This will be followed by discussion of the function and effect Sampaka on individual and social levels. In last paper of my paper, I will present clips from the benefit concert held in 2004, demonstrating the ways in which music can contribute to modernizing and globalizing Buddhism. Sampaka means Song of Sun Teaching. It was conceived of in the early 1990s by Daeheng Snim, the founder of the Hammam Sonam of the Korean Buddhist Joge order. The lyrics of Sampaka are usually selected from Buddhist verses written by Daeheng Snim, and its melodies are composed by professional musicians. Sampaka generally describes Buddhist teaching or inner state of some practitioner. The most important characteristic of Sampaka is that it is not a panegyric dedicated to the Buddha. The significance of this characteristic of Sampaka can be understood by comparing it with other well-known Buddhist music genres. Korean Buddhist music is largely divided into the traditional and the modern categories. These two are represented by Bonpe and the Chambulga, respectively. Bonpe is the oldest and most distinct form of Buddhist music in Korea, which is still performed today on special occasions. It is essentially solemn, ritual music, which takes 3 days to be presented in full scale. Only properly trained monastic members are authorized to perform Bonpe. Modern performed Korean Buddhism music are composed in Western style. They were created in the 1920s under the influence of Christianity. Chambulga, which exemplifies the new type of music, literally means song of praising the Buddha. In its use in Korean temples, Chambulga functions more or less as a Buddhist equivalent of a Christian hymn. Chambulga was aimed at modernizing Buddhist rituals and thereby popularizing Buddhism among the masses. Chambulga was welcomed by lay Buddhists for its simplicity and has spread steadily since the 1920s. In the 1980s, Korean temples began to organize choirs as they adopted Chambulga as a regular feature of their Dharma meetings. This development has contributed to conveying Buddhist messages to a broad range of congregations. Hence, Chambulga has become the most popular and familiar genre of Buddhist music to Koreans today. Sampaka is akin to Chambulga in that they are both simple songs. However, they differ in content and purposes. Chambulga is oriented toward external powers, whereas Sampaka focuses on internal ones. In other words, Chambulga communicates one's faith and devotion, whereas Sampaka is centered on one's mind and meditation. In its tone, Sampaka is more contemplative than Chambulga. Although both are patient in the Western scale, the absence of devotional elements in Sampaka reflects several important aspects of Daeheng Snim's teaching. Master Daeheng emphasizes that we should prove into our mind instead of seeking help from outside of ourselves. She teaches us to interest everything to Hammam, one mind, and just observe its empty and yet enormously powerful workings. All of us have Buddha nature in us, which she calls 주인공, empty owner. Although it is 주인공 that enables and empowers us, many of us are unaware of it. Deluded by tendency to rely on others, Sampaka is intended for a broad range of people. We can sing Sampaka while engaging in other activities. Taoism defines meditation as an everyday activity, not a special action that can be taken only on certain place and time. Sampaka provides practical method for putting this teaching into the practice. Singing Sampaka is practice in and of itself as it helps us to internalize Buddhist doctrine and discover Buddha nature in us. One of the factors that make Sampaka easily accessible to everyone is the use of Hangul, the vernacular Korean. Taoism's verse is composed Hangul, not literally Chinese, as is the case with many traditional Buddhist poems. The use of Hangul has a particular appeal to younger generation of Buddhists. As a form of Sun practice, Sampaka also serves as a means of compassion as acts on a social level. Members of Hammam Sunan choirs gather together regularly to practice Sampaka as a group. One of the important activities for them is a benefit concert. The Hammam Sunan was held a choir festival every year since the early 1990s. Proceeds from these concerts are all donated for poor and sick in society. In 2002, concert was for children suffering from a heart disease, and the 2004 festival was for liver cancer patients. The charity activities show the function of Sampaka as a medium for social communication between the Buddhist community and the society at large. They also nurtured a strong sense of unity and fellowship among the festival participants. By singing Sampaka together, they could overcome difference in their educational background, social, economic classes, occupation, orientation, regional affiliations, and even in their monastic statuses as lay or ordained. Moreover, Sampaka facilitates a cross-cultural communication between the Korean and the international members of Hammam Sunan. A good example is found in the 2004 benefit concert, in which many Germans joined from the Karl Brandt Temple. Let me show you clips of this concert. effect of Sampaka as a cross-linguistic and cross-cultural dialogue are described by two Germans of Karl's Brand Temple. One interviewee said, "They go light into the heart and guide us to our mind at the times when we gather to singing together in the Dharma hall. We can through everything in our melting pot, because the song sound in ours and the resound our being. All appeared worries, our burden melt away, because our heart can open. Thus, we all have changed through the singing, since we started practicing for the choir festival in Korea. Our hearts enlarged. We awakened somewhat, because we could feel and realize ourselves through the singing. The study of mind or observation sometimes sounds very abstract, but mastered song comforts us at once. It reaches my deep inside and gives me new clarity. It is meditation and path. Sampaka has become a less demanding and more fun way of practice in today's busy lives. Buddhist music has a prominent place in Korean culture, and Sampaka has reinforced such a tradition. But at the same time, Sampaka has helped contemporary Korean Buddhist music to reorient itself from a devotional art to contemplative practice. This critical contribution reflects Daison's ongoing endeavor to modernize Buddhism in the rapidly changing Korean society in the age of the internet and the globalization. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank all of you very much. Wow, music and art and healing and emotions, the Buddha. So are there any questions? This is the time now to ask.
This question is for Venerable Lecture Soma, because I don't know if you'll be up on the panel again. I read the first Sakyadhita book from, I think it was the late 80s, you know, and I was a laywoman at the time, but now I really relate to the experiences that many of the nuns from the West communicated about the difficulties they were having. And I know that in the program you haven't got any Western nuns speaking about the plight of Western nuns, you know, and I don't feel that much has changed. You know, 60 or 70% of us are still disrobing. I went to work on the same day I was ordained. Most of the people I was ordained with have given up. Have you seen, I mean, what do you think, being the president of Sakyadhita, have you seen any changes? You know, I still feel like there's a lot of changes for Tibetan nuns. Now they can pretty much get an education. There's lots of monasteries they can stay in. But where can Western nuns go, really? What is there for us? I'm still getting feedback from Westerners that, you know, really you're just a historical artifact now. You know, your time is over. And it's very, very hard. So I just wonder if there's anything we can do, or if you've seen improvements, if you've got ideas, please let me know.
I have seen great changes in the last 20 years. If we compare the situation of nuns in almost every tradition since 1987 until today, not even quite 20 years, we'll notice vast changes. For Western women also, I think there have been great changes. But here we have to recognize the diversity of traditions, because all of the different Buddhist traditions are quite unique, and each one comes out of a different historical experience. And each has its special beauty and also its special challenges. So being situated within Tibetan Buddhist tradition, I do see some changes. I also see that we still have a long way to go until we achieve full equality in the tradition. And the situation of Western nuns is particularly unusual because in the Tibetan tradition, Tibetans see themselves as refugees, even after 50 years. The Western people have done a great deal to help preserve and promote Tibetan culture, but we are not Tibetans, so we do not fit easily into the Tibetan tradition. When we do well, the Tibetan monks and the Tibetan people are very proud of us, but when we make mistakes, sometimes they're a little bit embarrassed about us. So we're really in an ambiguous role within the tradition. In order to be fully accepted by them, we have to become fluent in Tibetan. We have to become fluent in all of these cultural mores of the tradition, the humility, and we basically practically have to become Tibetan. In fact, the biggest compliment for a Western nun in my tradition is, "Oh, you're just like a Tibetan," right? But I'm an American. So this puts me in an ambiguous position. It's also a great learning opportunity. So maybe we'll have time to talk more about this and what we can do. I'm happy to say that there is a new monastery for Western nuns of the Tibetan tradition right near Venerable Tenzing Palmo's monastery. This is a huge advance because in the United States, we still do not have a monastery for nuns. Thank you for your question.
I wanted to comment on that as well. In part of the presentation that I cut out, Western nuns that have been talking to me, I'm assuming that part of the difficulty you're talking about is financial. Because the West does not have a culture of merit or of dana. And so even if one is associated with a community, and especially a community of modest means, there's not always that awareness that, for example, I routinely bring fruit when I go to talk to a nun or a monk, but that's something that I have learned, not something that came with me from my culture. So I think financially that's a real problem. And I just wanted to ask Lekshay, I think it's great about the monastery. Is that going to help in some way, like financially?
From what I understand, it's going to provide a place where Western nuns can stay, which is a big advance, really, because we have not had places to stay or anything to eat all of these years. I've been ordained almost 30 years, but where do I go? Where can I live? Who's going to feed me? In the United States, there is no place, no one will take care of me, right? And so I had to get a job. I had to go back to school and become a professor in order to support myself in my tradition. So this is something we have to look at very carefully, really. Where do we belong? If the American culture does not accept us and does not support us, then we're sort of left in space somewhere. And yet, when they need translators, when they need prayers, when they need teachings, they come to us, right? I mean, in the beginning, half the time they're saying, oh, we can practice just as well as you can. But then, when they need us, they suddenly value us. So again, our position is really in limbo.
Lady Chairperson, the panel, thank you for your contributions. I do not have a question, I have comments. And I feel it's correct at this time in view of what has been brought up, in view of what has been raised during the past 3 days. And I feel it's critical because I want to remind the audience again why we need to support the purpose of this conference. I start with Ehi Pasiko. I came, I saw, I'm still seeing. I was critical, analytical, and now I like to be holistic in rounding up certain things. And I like to lead the audience through this by using keywords, because a brother participant raised the issue, why women? Now we have been reminded of the importance of women in family, in society, in the nation. No doubt about that. I bring out chairperson's word, vulnerable. I remind the audience of Venerable Chief Bang's note that because of the true nature of women, we need to be protected. Now, we come to Buddhists. Why Buddhist women? Because we have a common platform, because of our teacher, the Buddha. He realized this, and so he set forth, hoping to care for the lady communities as well. Now, what else did Buddha teach us? This will bring on to yesterday's teaching on Dharma. He brought out the core, ignorance. And what is the antidote? Education. Now, why is it important that we must have Buddhist women teachers and support them? Because they are vulnerable, because in the real world, there are predators. The predators may not belong to a single gender, but largely dominated by a single gender. So we are vulnerable, and as can be supported by facts from a lot of impoverished Asian nations where women are sold into the flesh trade. Why? Out of family obligations, out of filial piety. That's the only thing they can do. Now, how can we combat that? Again, we come back to education. Next thing, multicultural. As pointed out by the first speaker, this can mean yes in a different culture. This can mean no in a different culture. A body language means something else. So, a young girl brought up in one culture is very vulnerable and can be preyed on. And predators, their purpose is for sensual, financial gain. They do not take no for an answer. To combat all this, we need education. So, next thing, why is this so important now at this point in time? Because we are in a global village. The technology is a multiplier. In the past, one deed is restricted to a room, a village, or even a country. Now, the same deed can go across continents. Similarly, one lesson can go across continents now. Now, why do we need Buddhist women teachers? Because, again, in a global multicultural community, as the facts from various studies will show, the figures of such evil deeds are escalating because of the multiplier effect of technology. So we must combat that by supporting women who have dedicated or will dedicate their lives to teaching women. Why is that necessary? As has been said before, you teach a male, you teach one person. You teach a female, you teach a family. You teach a nun, you teach a village, a community, a world. So, please support our Buddhist nuns, our Dharma teachers, so that they can have the necessary sustenance, protection, shelter, and opportunities for education, so that, again, they will benefit all sentient beings. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please, go ahead.
My question is a very small question compared with them, alright? So I'm so shy that in this morning sections, nuns can express or communicate Zen or chant, thought painting or drawing. My question is whether a nun or a monk can still play a music instrument. Thank you. Or express the Zen through a music instrument. Of course, not for the chanting purpose. May I ask the Venerable upstairs? Thank you. My question is that a monk or nun can still play in a music percussion? Music. For me, it's both painting and music is art.
일본 선불교에서 악기를 다루는 것에 대해서 질문을 했습니다. 저는 한국말로 하고 여기서 통역을 해줄 것 같습니다. 예. 우리 금방 범패하고 참불가 이야기를 했는데 범패에서는 악기를 다루는 게 맞고요. 우리가 선불교에서는 십계에서도 가무를 즐기지 말라 그랬습니다. 그게 차이점입니다. 간단하게 답했습니다.
In the way I understand the precepts we receive in Korean Zen Buddhism, nuns are not supposed to enjoy singing and dancing, so we don't. But the category of a traditional Buddhist music and dancing, it's a ritual called Pompe, which Venerable hasn't mentioned in her presentation, now accepts nuns as qualified candidates for training. It used to be performed only by monks in a very small circle, and they maintained a master-apprentice relationship. But now we have nuns of the Korean Buddhist Joge order who perform this ritual music and dance.
Well, why don't we stop here? Take a break.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bing. Before the tea break, I think I have two announcements to make. I want to know how many of them are taking the evening fasting. Can you please put up your hand? Put up your hand, please, because our dining hall would like to do some arrangement. Anybody who are fasting in evening, not taking any dinner, put up your hand, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, about 15 people, okay? All right, thank you very much. 16. And the other thing is, I would like to remind all of you.
any tension, any stress, anywhere in your body, go to that place and relax the tension. And now relax your mind. Minds are working overtime. Give them a rest. Give the mind a rest. Let go of all thoughts from the past, all plans for the future. Rest completely in the present moment.
your knowledge of the concept and also try to help.
Do you have things you were hoping to talk about or experience?
Really encountered with any exhibition, but I don't know, just somehow or rather this topic interests me a lot. Since I think like around when I was 16 years old, and actually I wanted to help out in this because in Malaysia, in KL, there's this area called the red zone area where this guy, this officer, he told because I was from the Central Avenue, and then he told us there's this red zone area where there are a couple of like drug addicts, like sometimes they loiter around, and he tried to like go about helping them. So I wanted to like join him, but I couldn't because of like studies and all, so I didn't really have time to venture more into this. So somehow this topic interests me, so I thought getting more info.
Right. So there's a zone
They call it
where people live on the streets. Are they homeless? Or they?
those drug addicts, they like loiter around. It's like homeless. That area is quite not to say dangerous, but it's not so safe for locals to pass around. It's really quite great.
And it's
in summer.
and it's known for having people that are diagnosed with HIV and AIDS. Is that right?
Drug addicts.
Intravenous drugs, which I was. Anybody else have any? Why you chose? Or?
We have never.
Okay.
I didn't know which workshop to choose, and
Yeah,
they wasn't
too many.
good. And I just thought, well, I don't know much about this area, and I like to hear what other people's experiences are. And I'm going to Thailand at the end of the week, and I thought, well, I might come across people with HIV/AIDS because it's so high in Thailand, and I thought, well, maybe it would just be good to get some, insights from other people about the disease and how you're working with people, and just in case I'm in that position, I don't know. I'm a social worker as well.
So you're going to work?
No, I'm not. I'm going to stay at a monastery. But I read in the newspaper a couple of weeks ago about a monastery in Thailand where family members drop their HIV-infected family member off at this temple just at the doorstep because they don't, I think like you were saying, they don't want to have contact with this person because they're scared of getting infected. And the story was about a woman who was dying of AIDS, and it didn't sound like there was any treatment or anything they were receiving at this temple looked after by volunteers, and it was just such a sad story. So that came to mind when I saw the workshop.
It's incredible. People literally don't know.
It's just awful. We're just so lucky in the West Australia that doesn't happen. And there's treatment before the treatment available.
But that is like a death sentence. When I went there, they're so different from the cancer patients. They have hope the cancer patients to cure, but these people were resigned to their fate.
It's true. And so much stigma. I mean, even my own family, when I started to I've been working in hospice specifically for 4 years, and then I moved exclusively to work in HIV and AIDS because I had that opportunity, and I just felt like where I'm living in the West, I felt like there wasn't a lot of talk about it. It was sort of like, oh, that was an issue, 10 years ago, and people, there's more important issues, and so I want to see what's going on with these people, what's going on with this population, and how are they, because where I live, it's more of a chronic illness, and people are living longer. The people that I work with have been diagnosed for 15, 20, 25 years. So, but I want to see how are they still surviving, because like you said, it's even though the people I work with are more independent and they're not as chronically ill as maybe some of the people you're describing, they still need attention, they still need assistance to cope with. How am I going to live another, how am I going to cope every day? I still have this illness that's still deadly. So, but yeah, even my own family, when I made the switch from hospice to guess that's what I want to, one of the things that better myself and I talked about is why are we still so afraid? I hear a lot of fear, you know, that area of town is so dangerous. Why is that area so dangerous? Why are families dumping off their loved ones, their family, their blood? Why are they dropping them off? Right, yeah, like those that so why are we so afraid? I think if you have
it can cross and they have a group, you can spread it. If we touch both and group and you touch them and they have a group and you have a
or if you have a group that's you catch it.
you can catch it. So you have to be careful not to touch.
Right. But to be honest with you, if you had a wound right now, open wound, I wouldn't really want to touch your wound. I don't know your status. I mean, I don't do, you know, blood and open wounds. I'm not a nurse.
But we may not be notice and just probably shook their hands or something. And so everything.
Right. You do have that. Sure.
But I don't think it's spread through the air.
No. I mean, if it spread through the air, I think we'd all have it. That's just my opinion. I think that's
Next to that stigma and misinformation about the disease because most of you can't touch it. Just touching something.
right.
Maybe not so much in the West. Other countries, people aren't aware still how to catch it.
See, the West, dentists, doctors, and nurses, gloves. You go to the dentist, you got gloves on. They change gloves for each patient. Some gloves, some gloves. So, technology, I think hepatitis is much more, the virus stays alive much longer, so that catching hepatitis from saliva, if they're a dentist, then AIDS. Yeah, I've got to say something on a positive note. Many years ago, I read an article in an American magazine, Buddhist magazine, about two brothers who had AIDS, and the story was about these two brothers. But what happened was that because they were into Buddhism and practiced meditation, they had a lot higher quality of life because of their mental outlook than other people with AIDS. What happened was they lived a lot longer, they had a lot healthier life. But when one brother died, the other brother died soon after. It was mental outlook, I guess, because once his brother went, he felt he had no one else. But through that practicing the teaching, they can still have a better quality of life with AIDS whilst they're alive. And I thought that was very positive. I think it was like a might have been a day because the magazine was incredible. I don't know.
Right.
But I always remembered that, you know,
删掉5个要讲出来的。
啊，对，好，师傅很聪明。现在就讲你删掉的5个是什么？
同情心，感情，
哎呦，重要的删掉这了 ，OK 好。
勉励，赞赏，群体。
哎呦，这样好了，OK，OK 好，没关系。
删掉衣食住行，娱乐。
这我还剩下什么那边
？And the karma we request teaching. So you are, it's like a flat palm that moves around. And this begin, that exactly like that. So we are here. We rejoice to purify jealousy, and then your left hand comes down. We request teachings to purify ignorance. And again, so we could move here. We request teachings to purify ignorance, and then Namaste, purify ways, one interpretation of that is that it represents the ordinary mind, body, and speech of us, and the enlightened mind, body, and speech of Tara. Tara is wisdom, compassion, and power. Wisdom, compassion, power. Wisdom, compassion, power. Wisdom, compassion, power. Wisdom, compassion, power. Tara
I agree with the venerable that the true story is a drama. So I wonder again. So I wonder whether we don't have time to find out
Okay, what time is it now? Sorry. 4:30. So, 5 minutes story as a conclusion for our workshop. Let's listen to one more. Yes, she was asking for one more.
you want to hear from
tell?
my
Oh, I'm sorry.
What is a true story?
A true story, please. Thank you.
And she said the story began when she was in her 20s.
她讲的这故事是从她20岁的时候开始。
She was betrothed to a family. She was married.
OK，她嫁到一个人家里面。
But she knew that her husband loved her. She loved her husband. But she sensed that the mother-in-law did not give her love.
她爱她的丈夫，然后她也知道她丈夫很爱她，但是她知道她的婆婆不喜欢她。
And the mother-in-law was very clever. In front of her husband, the mother-in-law treated her very well.
哦，这个婆婆呢，在那个丈夫的面前呢，对她很好。
She, behind her husband, the mother-in-law was very cruel to her.
可是在她丈夫的身后呢，她婆婆对她很好。
That is, women in Asia, do we face that situation?
OK，所以亚洲的女人常